Well, JoAnn Falletta, it's always awesome to have you here in Texas. Welcome back.
Thank you, John. It's great to come back. And one of the best reasons is always connecting with you in Texas. So thank you. It's great to be here.
This is a real delightful program. One of our friends, Chris Rouse, and his lovely flute concerto are on this program. It's got to be fun to work with Carol.
It is. You know, Carol and I have a long relationship, and we knew each other in New York, of course, but she also is from Buffalo, so she's come back to the Buffalo Philharmonic many times. She grew up in Buffalo. Her father was actually the associate conductor of the Buffalo Philharmonic for many years, so the Winsense family is very famous in Buffalo. And Carol asked me to do the Rouse, which is the first time I've done it, and I'm overwhelmed by it. I am so glad she suggested it. It was, of course, written for her, and commissioned by her, I think, and very special piece, and you can tell it's written for Carol, I think, because there's so much opportunity for cantabile playing, for singing, for beautiful sound, and of course that's one of Carol's great strengths and her wonderful playing.
Yeah, I think Joan Tower told me once she had been asked about a flute and guitar duo, and it's for Carol and Sharon, and she thought, well, I don't know these instruments very well, but then heard some of the things that it could do and was incredibly inspired, for that sort of thing. So no, it's a wonderful piece. The second movement, especially touching, sort of a little elegy.
It is. Well, the piece is like an arch, and in the middle of it, I think Chris was writing the piece when he heard about a great tragedy that happened in the UK. A young boy, a 2-year-old, who was murdered, and he says he couldn't get this out of his mind. He was overwhelmed by it, and he created that middle movement in memory of this young child, James, and it's so overwhelming. It's an elegy in the most beautiful way, and Carol weaves in and out. The rest of the piece is inspired by his Celtic roots. So there's a little bit of Irish in there. There's a jig in there, an Irish jig, and the flute seems the perfect instrument to play that repertoire, accompanied by the orchestra. So there are moments of great loveliness, great pastoral playing, and then there's a lot of bravura playing for the orchestra as well.
Oh yeah. Well, this is a wonderful program for the kids because they start out with Don Juan, one of the great masterpieces, and end with this, wonderful concerto for orchestra. Really, this wonderful enigma variations where everyone gets to play around with the themes and whatnot. It's got to be nice to sort of share this with young people.
It is, and when we put a program together here for a situation like this with young professional musicians, we always think about that. Okay, what is going to really be fun to play? And also be a kind of development experience where they're playing pieces that they have not played in school yet. They're playing very challenging repertoire. For many of them, they've practiced excerpts of these pieces, but they've never had a chance to play it. And there's something magical about seeing someone playing like Don Juan for the first time, after struggling with those excerpts that you have to take auditions on, and seeing, this is how it fits in the piece. This is why I practiced it. It makes sense. This is glorious. So for me, it's great. It's great fun to see them discovering Don Juan or Elgar making variations. Don Juan is amazing, written for orchestra. For all that it's so challenging, it's spectacularly well written, so that the instruments are pushed, but they always sound wonderful. It exploits all of their greatest possibilities. And of course, it's a story. Everything that Strauss wrote, all these tone poems, every detail of that story is in the music. It would take forever to go through every bar and say this is where he's talking about, but it's there. So it captures their imagination in this Don Juan, who is a very sympathetic character, because, of course, Strauss, all of these tone poems are autobiographical. So Strauss saw a little bit of himself in Don Juan, and he treats him with great love, and it's fun to do that with them and have them discover this masterpiece. And the Elgar is a little more challenging because it's not the kind of piece that is played as often as Don Juan, and it's not maybe the kind of piece where they're always practicing excerpts. And it is, as you so aptly said, I never heard someone say this, but you're right, it's a concerto for orchestra. And anything in variation form, as it is very challenging, because every 1.5 or 2 minutes, we're switching gears from something incredibly tender, filled with sentiment, filled with love, to something that's extremely physical and athletic and challenging, and back and forth. And so you have all of these different moods that are occurring over the space of less than 30 minutes. and they have to be quick, they have to be on their feet, they've got to be knowing how to make these changes quickly, and they love it. I mean, that also, the idea that this man would write these little snapshots of people who were dear to him. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, it's filled with love. It's filled with good humor. I mean, he's poking fun at some of these wonderful friends, and in the end, it's gloriously English. I mean, there's something so British about this in the best possible way. It's a wonderful piece to discover with young people.
And I think, it comes at the time where the orchestra really was king. The orchestra, both these pieces are at sort of the height of Romanticism. And I always think, they were painting in these big brush strokes and these grand gestures, but to be able to work through details and to have all those, or, just these right things where that Elgar has such a passion, the Nimrod is just such a, ethereal sort of thing. To be able to work on these details has to be sort of fun, because it's over this whole week.
Oh, it is. You're right. They're painting in big strokes. I mean, there's nothing shy about either of these pieces. I mean, these are big orchestra pieces, but they're extraordinarily detailed. I mean, to such minute details, and it's charming, and it's fun to sort of take a little piece of chamber music out of this great piece and work on just the connection between double bass and timpani, how they respond and balance each other, or second violins and violas, and work on that. And it gives the young people an idea that every little thing that we're playing in this piece in an orchestra is important. There's nothing unimportant. Every detail of the inner voices makes the piece shine. And we also get to talk about sound, and that's important too in these big romantic pieces. The sound that the orchestra makes, it's not enough just to race through these 30-second notes. It's all about the sound that you make while you're playing. So there's a lot to think about in this, and it's thrilling. For me, this kind of repertoire is sort of my favorite period. Turn of the century, early 20th century, because, as you said, John, it's all about the orchestra. It's all about the orchestra, and the palette of the orchestra is so expanded. We're not talking about kind of beautiful Brahms sound or Schumann sound. All of a sudden, there are colors from everywhere, from extra percussion, extra woodwinds, just a new sense of creating more variety of color. And for a conductor, that's thrilling. I mean, we have this gigantic paint box and dynamics from triple piano to triple forte and beyond, and instruments playing in ways that no one imagined before. I mean, imagine double bass before Strauss. I mean, they looked at these things they had to play. It was like, what? The double bass was just a little support to the cello, and now it's a virtuoso instrument. So it's thrilling. It's such exciting for me to be here doing this with you.
Yeah. So what's after this week? What are you up to this summer?
Well, it's a fun summer for me because next week I'm going to Chile for the first time in South America, John. First time, and I've been dreaming about going to South America, so I'm making my South American debut in Santiago with the National Orchestra there. And then after that, Chamber Orchestra Festival in New Hampshire, and then to National Repertory Orchestra in Breckenridge, which is always fun too with young people. And then the end of the summer, I'm going to London to record with London Symphony, then to Korea, to Seoul, Korea with their orchestra, and then Beijing. So ending the summer in Beijing. So it's a very varied summer for me, and it's a little bit like a summer vacation in a way that you're working very hard. You're doing a lot of music, an intense situation, but even though the music making is on a high level, and there's a feeling of summer about it. You know what I mean about being in a place where it's beautiful, and you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and you're just feeling like, yes, I mean, this is the way music should be. Relaxed, high quality, working hard, but also enjoying being in the summer in beautiful places.
And getting a little bit of culture, local culture, and all these things. You'll be able to have some fish and chips, and then
that's right.
Some good bok choy and Beijing and whatnot. So
a wide variety this summer.
Yeah, well, Chile is exciting. I'm shocked it's your South American debut.
Never been there, and so I'm excited about it. And I don't know what to expect, but I know the orchestra is very good. And we're doing a piece by Ken Fuchs there, a horn concerto, a beautiful horn concerto that he wrote called Canticle to the Sun. which is already making the rounds everywhere. And I'm so happy for Ken. We were classmates in Juilliard, so I'm so happy for his success. We recorded this in London, and now it's going everywhere. So we're bringing an American piece to Santiago, Chile, and that makes me happy. Doing American music like this week with Christopher Rouse, introducing, in this case, the young people to a new language. I mean, this is a late 20th century piece, and they should enjoy being Americans and understanding this vernacular. So, and then bringing it to South America, it's great.
Oh, cool. Now, will this year gear up for another guitar competition? Is this a on-year or off-year?
This is this June, just past June was an off year, so we're gearing up for June of 2012 for another installment. And we've had fantastic winners from all over the world, not from the U.S. yet. So we're hoping at some point, but our last winner was from Russia, fantastic player. We've had Poland, Mexico, Uruguay. It seems to me the guitar is becoming even more popular than it was all across the world, especially in Asia and in Eastern Europe. It's become incredibly popular, so we're gearing up for that, and it's going to be a good season. I'm going to Ulster for the first time as the principal conductor, so that's something new for me this next season, and I'm mentally getting ready for that, and of course continuing with Virginia and with Buffalo, so
yeah,
it's a good year.
It's been a rough year. I know poor Syracuse Symphony has folded, and that's not terribly far away.
No.
Rochester's going to be looking for another conductor. Chris is going to be leaving. And
they have found someone.
Oh, have they?
Remmeret. You have to cut this out.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I don't know his first name. I forgot. Arvild Remmeret, but they did find someone. But you're right. It's been a challenging year for orchestras everywhere, and of course, closest to us, Syracuse Symphony was a great tragedy. That is one of our country's finest orchestras. And not only that, it was, I think, one of the hardest working orchestras in the entire world, because the Syracuse musicians played all over New York State, going way up, where it's really snowy, in buses, going to faraway towns in New York State, playing youth concerts, pops concerts, classics concerts, working very hard at a very high level, and to have them close down was shocking to us and a great tragedy. But we hear that they're trying to come back, and that's good news. And for all of the challenges that we see with Louisville and Philadelphia now, there's good news that Honolulu Symphony reforming themselves and coming back as Hawaii Symphony. So all of us are working hard. It is times in which we're learning a lot, John. I guess I could say that. We're learning a lot about our orchestras, about what's important, about maintaining artistic quality at the highest level in difficult times, about thinking about reaching people in different ways.
Yeah. I know there was a great milestone in Buffalo this year for 75th anniversary, right?
Well, there was a big milestone, and that also is telling in these troubled times, because Buffalo as a city has had difficulties for decades, and yet the city has kept its orchestra going for 75 years, 75 wonderful years, and that's inspiring to me, that we could be in a very troubled economic environment in Buffalo, but have our city gather around us saying the Buffalo Philharmonic is important to us, and maybe that's what the recession in the long run will teach us, that we can understand what's truly important in our world, in our environments, in our communities, and orchestras play such an important role in life and in education and in well-being, and we need to treasure them.
Yeah. You guys have done some new works. I heard a new Darren Hagen piece that you guys have done.
We did. Well, this was a wonderful gift for our 75th anniversary. Darren Hagen wrote a violin concerto for Michael Ludwig, our concertmaster, and the Buffalo Philharmonic, and he wrote it as a present to say happy anniversary, called Songbook. And it's based upon Irish folk melodies and American folk melodies, including Amazing Grace. It ends with Amazing Grace. And Darren, also we were classmates at Juilliard, so I've had a very close relationship with Darren Hagen, and I'm a big fan of his music. And a little while ago we did his opera in Buffalo, we did Shining Brow. But this was a brand new piece, Songbook, beautiful lyricism, wonderful writing for the violin, the orchestra, and I think it will become a classic.